I am building the Vermont Farmhouse Junior from start to finish, and today I'm building that pesky front porch. It can be very frustrating, but I'm going to walk you through every little step, give you my top tips, so you'll be sitting on that front porch in no time. Hello, my crafty dolls, and welcome to my craft room. I am Grandma Kitty, and I am so glad you're here. This is episode 9 of my Vermont Farmhouse Junior dollhouse build from start to finish, and we are almost done with this dollhouse, and I'm so excited because then we get to decorate. Best part. Now, my last episode, I glued all the walls and floors together, so if you missed it, you really need to go back and check that out. I gave you some tips on how to glue everything together with minimal frustration. Now, if you want to follow along with me through the entire dollhouse building series, I have a playlist set up right on my YouTube page. You can watch the episodes in order, and then you can go back and refer back to them if you need any help. Now, I am building this house in real time, so my upcoming videos are about a week and a half apart. I have to build, I have to edit, and then I have to upload my videos and my crafty dolls. It takes me a long time. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss my next episode. I am going to be putting the roof on the dollhouse and putting on all those pesky little shingles. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss that episode. But today it's all about putting together that tricky front porch. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that the porch is a pain in the butt and very frustrating. And unfortunately, the instructions are kind of vague on the porch construction. It's basically, here's a picture. You lay out the pieces according to the illustration and glue it together. That's it. Oh my gosh, I hate it when I am doing a project and that one step I'm really confused about, the instructions are not detailed enough and they just don't help at all. So I am going to break down each tiny step to help you build that porch without pulling your hair out. I promise. It's really not that hard. We can do it. Now, in order for everything to run smoothly, I have 3 top tips for building that pesky little porch. Number 1, we need to paint all the porch pieces ahead of time. Now, I have an episode on painting everything before you build, so if you missed it, you want to go back and watch that because painting all the pieces ahead of time really gives you a nice, clean, finished look. Now, number 2 is glue the pieces in sections and then let them dry before moving on to the next step. Don't try to glue everything at once. It's not going to work. Everything is going to be slipping and sliding and it's going to drive you nuts. And my number 1 tip, my secret weapon, is to use a square. It's really going to make your life a lot easier. Now, this square isn't going to work. It's going to be too big. We really need little squares to get into those tight corners. I love using my quilting tools. So if you have a little square like this, that is going to work great. I also have a little triangle here, which is for drawing. And I just want to say, if you don't have a square, don't even try building the porch. It's not going to work. So if you don't have one, you really need to go buy one. Now, as far as glue, I am going to be using my trusty tacky glue. It is the best glue for the job. It's very strong. It dries clear, so we don't have any of those ugly yellow drip marks. And I also like to use a brush, and I kind of brush on the glue, and that really helps with the oozing and dripping. Okay, so let's get to work. We have a lot to do, but don't be scared. If you follow along with me, it'll all work out. All right, here we go. It is time for the dreaded porch construction, but crafty dolls, we got this. So first things first, we need to lay the house on its back. And this always makes me nervous, but this house is solid as a rock. And I'm keeping my house on that board that I've been using so I can easily turn the house without pulling and tugging on my walls. Makes it so much easier. Now let's gather all of our porch pieces. We're going to need the 4 porch posts, the 2 triangle spacers, the 4 porch support triangles, the 2 front railings and the 2 side railings, and finally the 2 porch trim pieces. Now, as far as the gingerbread trim goes, I'm going to be doing some folk art painting later on, so I'm going to put those aside for now. Now, the first step is to lay the 4 porch posts against the house. Now, these posts are going to act as a guide for our support triangles. The instructions say that the support triangles lay vertically and the 1 triangle spacer in between the 2 support triangles. The first support triangle should be 1/16 from the edge of the house. Okay, so I'm going to map out all the pieces without glue to make sure I understand how everything goes together. The angled edge of the support triangle should be facing up towards the roof. The flat side of the support should be facing down towards the porch. Place it against the post, measure 1/16 of an inch, that is literally a hair, from the side of the house. And next is the triangle spacer. Now the painted edge should be facing down towards the porch, and this sits right next to the support triangle. Now the instructions say that the bottom edge of the spacer should be flush with the flat edge of the support triangle. If it's too high, it's going to interfere with the porch roof. The spacer should lie just under the angle of the support. Now, the secret to success and no frustration is to square off all those inside corners. Now, just repeat the process for the next support triangle and don't forget to square off those inside corners. And now I'm going to repeat the entire process on the left side of the house. I'm going to measure that 1/16 of a tiny inch from the edge, place the support in the right direction, put the spacer painted side down, and flush with the bottom of the support. Now add the second support and double check those inside corners. That is the key to success. Now you can see that the top of my supports fit perfectly in the groove of the siding. I just love when things line up perfectly. Okay, I think I have the confidence to start gluing. And now using my trusty tacky glue, I am going to spread the glue on the support with a brush. This is really going to help keep that glue from oozing and dripping. Line up with that 16th inch mark and make sure it is completely vertical with a square. And then finally, I'm going to apply some glue to the spacer on both ends and on the back and place it next to the support. Now glue the second support and then place into position. And of course, you have to make sure all those inside corners are squared. And don't forget to check that all the pieces are squared vertically as well. And you can never check too many times. If our pieces start off crooked now, the rest of the porch is absolutely doomed. And now I'm going to repeat the entire process to the left side of the house. I'm going to glue the support to that 1/16 mark, glue the spacer, and finally glue the second support. And of course, square up those inside corners. Now make sure you do not glue the posts. That would be a huge mistake. Now, just to be on the safe side, before the glue dries, I'm going to take a post and make sure it fits between the end of the support to the porch floor. This will ensure a perfect fit. And finally, I'm going to remove all the posts before the glue dries, just in case that glue oozed. I don't want to have any problems. So now I am going to let everything dry overnight and cross my fingers. Okay, so now it's the next morning and all the glue is set. Now I have to put the house back on its foundation and tip it back, and I have to work on the posts and the rails. And everything so far is looking great. I'm going to work on the porch rails without glue just to figure out how everything comes together. And I'm going to start by placing the posts under each roof support. Now first I'm going to be working on the right side of the porch, and the 2 posts should be flush with the left side of the 2 triangle roof supports. Now first I'm going to start with the side rail and I'm going to determine how high I want the rail to be. It can be any height you want and the instructions of course don't specify. So I'm going to tuck the bottom of the rail just under the second siding piece from the bottom of the house. I'm going to use a stack of shingles to build a little bit of a support system for my rail. Now I started with 12 shingles and I need just one more, so that makes 13. Yikes, that is an unlucky number. I am very superstitious. So should I change the height or maybe I should switch the theme to a haunted house? I think I'll risk it. I'm going to put another stack of 13 shingles onto the other side. All right, now I'm going to work on the front rail, and the second pole should be flush with the left side of that triangle support. And to determine the post position from the house, I'm going to use the other rail as my guide. Now the front rail should fit perfectly between the posts, and I'm going to use 2 stacks of shingles for each end to help support that rail and keep it straight. Now you can see that the post has a decorative edge here. So when I glue the rail, I want to keep that right in between that pretty edge. Now to keep this really easy and the frustration low, I'm only going to glue this post and the side rail first and let everything completely dry before moving on to the front rail. If I try to glue both sections at once, the posts are going to keep slip sliding away. It's kind of like that old Paul Simon song, slip sliding away, slip sliding away. Yeah, now that song is going to live in my head for the rest of the day. Now using my trusty tacky glue, I'm going to brush a little bit of glue on the top and bottom of the pole. And then make sure the top of the pole is flush with the left side of that triangle support. And of course, you got to use a square to make sure that pole is completely straight on all sides. Now put 2 stacks of shingles for the side rail for support. Brush glue on all 4 ends and just make sure everything is completely straight. Again, use a square to check, and then when you check again. All right, everything looks good. Everything is perfectly squared. So now I'm going to let this completely dry before moving on. So I am going to work on the left side of the porch, repeating the entire process. Brush the glue onto the bottom and the top of the post, and the top of the post should be flush with the right side of the roof support. Make sure the post is straight, and again, stack up those shingles to help support our side rail. Now brush glue to all 4 ends of the rail and glue into place, and use a square to make sure everything is straight. And now let the side completely dry. Now I'm going to go back to the left side of the porch where everything has completely dried, and I'm going to work on the second post and the front rail. Now when I set up all my pieces, I used one of the side rails to determine where the position of the post would be from the house, and it worked so well that I am going to make my own spacers to really help me out. I took a quick measurement of the side rail. Now I have these long flat boards, and you can maybe use popsicle sticks or even a thick piece of cardboard. And I cut the board using my handy miter cutter. And now I have 2 handy spacers to help keep my posts in position. Now I'm going to take that spacer I just made and put it down against the house. I'm going to brush glue onto the top and bottom of the post and place the post against the spacer. And the top of the post should be flush with the left side of the roof support. And of course, making sure everything is perfectly square and making sure that post is perfectly straight. Lay down 2 stacks of shingles for the rail support, glue all 4 ends of the rail, and glue into place. And of course, make sure everything is straight. The railing is perfectly centered on that post, and the top of the post is flush with the left side of the support. And the spacer I made is a real lifesaver in keeping that post securely in place. And now I'm going to double check to see if the roof support and the top of the post is perfectly square. You can never over check to see if everything is perfectly straight. All right, now half of the porch is all done. Now that wasn't so bad. All right, I think we are pros at this now. So after the left side is completely dry, I place my spacer against the house. I line up the top of the post to the right side of the roof support, stack up those 13 shingles, glue the rail ends, and glue into place. And make sure everything is straight, and double check that the post and the roof support are perfectly square. And give everything a double check before letting everything dry. Now it is the next day and everything is perfectly dry and everything looks nice and straight. And my crafty dolls, the hard part is all over. So let's celebrate and remove all the stacked shingles. And we need to really get rid of that unlucky number 13 from the house. And finally, remove the homemade spacers. I could not have built this porch without them. And now we need to frame out the top of the porch with the porch trim. So starting on one side, we need to measure 4¼ inch from the house to the front end of the post. I've got my 2 long pieces of trim and I'm going to measure to the end of the post. Now, if only my little Nikki Kitty would let me do this. She is so sassy. So I'm going to cut that piece to length and then I'm just going to sand the end of it. Now just glue the top of the trim and the end that goes onto the house and glue into place under the roof support. Now just wrap a piece of tape over the piece to hold it in place while it dries. Now the instructions say the trim piece should fit flush with the side of the house, filling in that 1/16 of an inch gap, and it should be flush with the front of the post. And now I'm going to do the same step to the right side of the upper porch. Now, I told you that the number 13 was unlucky, and I kid you not, I cut my finger on the blade of the miter cutter. This is very dangerous work. It's cursed. Glue the trim into place under the roof support and then tape it up so it can dry in place. And now let's check our work. The trim should be 1/16 of an inch out from the edge of the support and should be flush with the front of the post. All good. And now all that is left is the front trim piece, and it should be flush with the end of the side trim. And now I'm going to just tape this end so I can measure the opposite end and cut it to the exact length. And just give the end a really quick sand. And now I'm going to brush tacky glue at the top face of all the posts and just under the ends of all of the roof supports. Now place the front trim just under those roof supports. They should be flush with the tip, and just secure the entire trim pieces with some tape and let it dry. And now I'm going to quickly paint the rough edges of my trim. Now, I did mention earlier that I'm going to be doing some fancy folk art painting on my gingerbread trim in a later episode, so I'm going to set mine aside. But if you want to keep yours just plain, you would attach them at this time. And now it is another new day and everything is dry and everything looks great. And this is my favorite part. I love taking off all the tape. And now all that is left to do, my crafty dolls, is just to glue the roof in place. Now, before I attach the roof, I have a little bit more work to do. I need to draw the shingle line guides on the roof. Now, the instructions say to measure 1 shingle height from the bottom of the roof, and then measure 1-inch line up from that first line, and then continue measuring 1-inch lines all the way to the top. And I love using my quilting ruler for this. It just keeps all those lines really nice and square. Now that was a piece of cake compared to building the porch. And now one last step, I promise. Now, I did not paint the bottom of the roof. I really thought you wouldn't be able to see it. So you can call me crazy, but I just have to paint the bottom. It's going to bother me forever because you're going to be able to see it. And it's just so much easier to just give it a quick coat of paint before I glue it in. So why not? Okay, I hope you're not mad at me for having to get the paint out again, but trust me, the painted roof is going to make all the difference. All right, this is it. Almost done, my crafty dolls. I'm just going to brush glue onto the tops of all four of those roof supports. And now just make sure the bottom of the roof is facing you and press it down into place. And just make sure the roof is even on both sides and it should just be flush with the sides of the house. My crafty dolls, we did it. The hardest part of the dollhouse is finished, and it really wasn't that hard. Very, very tedious, but I could not have done it without my trusty square. Now you can see, my crafty dolls, look at the painted ceiling on the roof. It looks so clean and polished. It had to be painted. Now, don't you just want to come and sit on the front porch, have a cup of coffee, and watch the world go by? All right, my crafty dolls, I am finished, and that really wasn't so bad. Really after laying out all the pieces and really visualizing how they went together, it was like, oh, I get it now. And really making those two spacers for the post was a huge help. It really kept those posts from slipping and sliding all over. And when you're building your porch, make sure you're safe when building your house, because last week I fell and bruised my arm and my elbow. This week I kept hitting my head on the light and that unlucky number 13. I knew it was going to be a problem and it caused me to cut my finger pretty badly. I am very superstitious. Are you guys? Let me know in the comments. I always have to knock on wood. And if I don't, I get all tingly and weird and I know something bad is going to happen. So now next week, I am going to be putting on the roof and putting on all of those shingles. So hopefully I don't get hurt. Maybe I'll wear a hard hat on that episode. So make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss. And my plan after the dollhouse is finished is to show you how to decorate each room. Now I have an antique store, I have an attic, I have a sewing room, a laundry room. I'm going to be making a backyard with a garden. So I've been working on some new miniatures to help complement my new rooms. So in the meantime, you got to go check out my Etsy shop. I design and create digital miniatures for your dollhouse. I have so many unique items to choose from. You download the file, you print it at home, and then you put it together, and they are so much fun. And if you favor my Etsy shop, you will be alerted to all of my new listings as soon as I post them. So thank you so much for watching and good luck on your porch build, and I will see you next week. Bye.